Calaroga Shark Media.
Hello, I'm Johnny Mac with your daily comedy news. I love a good controversy, and I've got a few today. Get a load of this. Crack.com writes, is Donald Glover complicit in the completely lame hoax at Mark Normand's stand-up show? Oh, boy. So I'm not going to say the name of the company that is looking for publicity. I will just call them Brand X. You may recall the story from last week where Mark Normand was on stage. A man jumped on stage. The man was escorted out. Then Mark Normand was escorted off the stage as if he were the president of the United States. Normand and the New York Comedy Club issued Instagram explanations for the incident. They said the show's producers staged the disturbance, identifying the group as Brand X. So Cracked dove in. They say Brand X has also taken responsibility for some other viral incidents, including the heist of custom sneakers at an art exhibition and a Tyra Banks furry sandwich thing at a Nets game. Their byline, would you risk it all to have it all? Cracked writes, Brand X appeared to be a stupid, pretentious attempt at going viral perpetrated by a bunch of wannabe influencers. And they add, well, judging by Donald Glover's recent Instagram stories, Brand X is actually a stupid, pretentious attempt at going viral perpetrated by one of the most powerful mega corporations on the planet. Cracked writes, the whole scheme is just a promotion for Donald Glover's Amazon Prime Video series Mr. and Mrs. Smith. The series is built off the premise that Donald Glover and Myra Erskine play wannabe spies recruited by a mysterious organization they call Brand X, which they named after the greeting the entity sends the two. Donald Glover reposted clips from the Brand X Instagram page on his own story. I know I'm barely hiding it, right? You're going to be able to figure out the Amazon part, but I don't want to help here. Including videos of the Normand incident. That's a weird thing for Donald Glover to do. I mean, I guess I did it too, but yeah. Glover also shared the courtside furries and the sneaker boosters. The 800-pound gorilla website says they have found a website built for the Brand X account called joinbrandx.com, but not that, I'm hiding the name. Stereogum says that Brand X recruited people to perform stunts and missions for prizes, and Amazon is mentioned in the contest rules. Wow, talking about backfire, I'm curious what Mark Normand will say about this, if anything. I'm curious what Joe Rogan will say about this. Why Joe Rogan? Because he likes to talk about comedy. All right. Next controversy. Saturday Night Live. I haven't seen it yet. There were these football games. Go Niners. We'll get to that. So I haven't watched SNL. But apparently at the end of SNL, who showed up on stage? Dave Chappelle. The AV Club didn't pull their punches. They wrote the divisive, transphobic comedian popped up on stage alongside host Dakota Johnson, musical guest Justin Timberlake, and a slew of other celebrities, including Jimmy Fallon and the Shark Tank's Mark Cuban during the goodbye segment of this past weekend's SNL. Seemingly to the surprise of the cast as much as the audience, the AV Club says, this writer's no body language expert, but it seems clear that certain cast members weren't too thrilled, etc., etc. That didn't make the surprise any easier for repertory players Bowen Yang and Sarah Sherman, who seemed visibly distraught when they realized Chappelle had joined the group on the other end of the stage. The AV Club reminds us of some of the details of Dave's specials. Dave has hosted SNL 3 times, AV Club reminds us. Back in 2022, although Chappelle's reps denied it, Page 6 reported at the time that some of the show's writers boycotted his episode because they did not agree with his views. In that particular episode, the AV Club noted that Yang, Sherman, and Molly Kearney were notably absent from that night's goodbye segment. Next one, George Carlin. You know that lawsuit against the AI thing? Well, it appears that there may have been a pivot. So now it seems that the AI Carlin thing, as it's been described, was not actually AI. Spokeswoman Danielle Dell told the New York Times, it's a fictional podcast character created by 2 human beings, Will Sasso and Chad Kultgen. The YouTube video, I'm Glad I'm Dead, was completely written by Chad Kultgen. So it's not an AI special now, so what is it? Carlin estate lawyer Josh Schiller told the New York Times the lawsuit would move forward. He said, we don't know what they're saying to be true. What we will know is they'll be deposed. They will produce documents, and there'll be evidence that shows one way or another how the show was created. Wired analyzed this and said, while the special doesn't present images of video of Carlin, AI generated or not, the YouTube thumbnail for the video shows an AI generated image of a comedian with Carlin's signature gray ponytail looking out over an audience. The lawsuit also cites numerous social media posts where Carlin's name and image are used to promote the special or the Dudesy podcast. According to the lawsuit, that creates an association between the podcast and Carlin that is, quote, harmful to Carlin's reputation, his legacy, and to the value of his real work. Worse, if not curtailed now, future AI models may incorrectly associate the Dudesy special with Carlin, ultimately folding defendant's knockoff version in with Carlin's actual creative output. I use AI a lot, and my non-expert opinion is, yeah, that's a thing that could happen. I've seen it make up facts. I've seen it get confused of things. I'm a big Star Trek follower, and I've seen it make up Star Trek things already because things are out there. Wired writes the lawsuit asks the court to force Dudesy to remove, take down, and destroy any video or audio copies of the George Carlin special, wherever they may be located, as well as pay punitive damages. So as I understand it, the Dudesy version is down, but I just jumped on YouTube and I found a copy of it. And that file appears to be 59 minutes and 27 seconds long. I have not played through the whole thing, but it looks like that is a copy of it. And here I see an episode of the Dudesy video podcast on YouTube. The thumbnail includes the image of someone who looks a lot more like George Carlin than the person looks like me or looks like Taylor Swift. But I'll let a jury decide. I'm just here to tell you what's going on. So I was curious, what happens if you ask ChatGPT to write a Carlin joke? And I picked the topic of bagels, which I talked about on yesterday's podcast. I asked it to write a joke in the style of George Carlin, and here's what I wrote, and I'll do my really quarter-ass George Carlin impression. Why is it every time that I buy a bagel, it came out as Jim Brewer for some reason, why is it every time I buy a bagel there's a hole in the middle? I mean, what kind of business model is that? Selling food with a missing part, next thing you know, they'll be selling donuts as bagels with extra air and charging twice the price. All right, there's no way Kelly's going to think I'm representing myself as George there. That was horrible, even in Johnny Mac. So that's what AI came up with as Carlin, but I think that's a generic joke because I'll do it as half-ass angry Jerry Seinfeld. Why is it every time I buy a bagel there's a hole in the middle? I mean, what kind of business model is that? Selling food with a missing part. Next thing you know, they'll be selling donuts as bagel with extra air, charging twice the price, right? So that worked. Who knows? Sorry, I can't get gravelly today. I don't know why. Burt Kreischer, actual Burt Kreischer, has a deal to do 2 more specials for Netflix. This will be his 4th and 5th. The first will be shot in St. Petersburg, Florida on July 6th. In case you thought he was filming it in St. Petersburg, Russia, he's not. Well, actually with Burt Kreischer, that wouldn't be crazy, right? You could see that happening. He's the machine. Nope, the Florida one, St. Petersburg, Florida, July 6th. Kreischer will executive produce the new special, also getting a producer credit, Leanne Kreischer. Adam Sandler would be proud. Did you listen to Trevor Noah's interview with Kevin Hart? Because it's really good. You should listen. There's a funny moment where Trevor asks Kevin, you ever done a half-empty arena, right? So that's the setup. And then Kevin answers kind of quickly. I'm pointing that out in advance so that when you hear what Kevin says, you'll get it. So Trevor goes, you ever done a half-empty arena, by the way? I've done one. Kevin, no. Can I tell you? I should have said that so fast. That sounded really a-hole. Ask me that question again. So Trevor backs up, but they left all this in. Kev, you ever done an empty arena, half-empty? Kevin goes, let me think. Have I done an empty arena? I don't know. I don't know if I have. I love the transparency there. I mean, I'd have to think about it. I'm quite sure it's probably been some, I don't know. I would have to think about that. Love it. More controversy. You may recall Katt Williams recently did an interview. In that interview, he asked, why earthquake not in movies? Sounded cooler in Katt's accent. He can't read. And they found that out when they gave him a show and then put the cards in front of him. Earthquake was on Charlemagne's show and asked about these comments. Earthquake said, personally speaking, me and him was cool, so I didn't know where that came from. Certain things he said about me, half was true, half was a lie, but to each his own. I don't even get into that part of it because, see, I'm the type of person where if I have a problem with you, Charlemagne, I'm going to call you out. We're either going to talk it out, we're going to duke it out, but we're going to handle it man to man. Today, it's a lame edition of Gossip Corner. The headline from WIBX950.com, your home for comedy news. They went with, no joke, renowned comedian stops for cup of joe at CNY coffee shop, right? CNY Central New York, renowned comedian. So you're wondering, who is it? Maybe it was Dave Chappelle or Burt Kreischer, maybe Jim Gaffigan, maybe Earthquake. Katt Williams maybe came by for some coffee. It's a renowned comedian. And they even had a thumbnail where they blotted out the comedian's face so that they would get their click. Well, they got a click out of Johnny Mac. WIBX950.com got their click for this one. Utica Coffee seems to be one hotspot. And here's the reveal. This is the renowned comedian. Comedian Joe Gatto also stopped in for a cup a few days ago. Who? Excuse me, what? Renowned comedian Joe Gatto? What? We just got done with, what was the term they used yesterday for Bobby Lee? World famous Bobby Lee. Why don't you go ask 1,000 people who Joe Gatto is? I don't know if Joe is good or bad. He's probably an awesome dude. He's probably hilarious, but renowned? I don't know if he's renowned. The internet tells me Joseph Anthony Gatto Jr. is an American improvisational comedian, actor, and producer from the New York City borough of Staten Island. He was formerly a member of the Tenderloins, a comedy troupe consisting of Sal Vulcano, James Murray, and Brian Quinn. All right, Sal is known a little bit. Maybe Tenderloin fans right now are throwing their phone across the room going, how do you not know who Joe Gatto is? I mentioned earlier I watched football on Sunday. Did you? Of course you did. I still can't believe my Niners came back. The entire time during the game, I was texting my friend Pat. He's a Chiefs fan. I'm a Niners fan. So we were kind of rooting for each other's teams because we want to face off in the Super Bowl, and we got our wish. So when the Lions scored with 2 minutes of the game, I wrote, remain calm, play the entire game. And I kept texting him that in the first half. At halftime, I was a little nervous, and I said, going to get my lucky hat, which is a real thing I did. My son got me a Niners cap for Christmas, and I went up and I got it. And I kept texting, remain calm, play the entire game, lucky hat. And boy, the Niners pulled it off, which is all a long, way too long setup to tell you that Bill Burr was not happy with the coaching strategy of the Lions. If you watch the game, the Lions were a little aggressive. Instead of kicking field goals, Bill Burr tweeted, what do analytics say about the momentum shift of not kicking a field goal, going for it on 4th down, and turning the ball over versus the upside of making the first down? Anyway, 2 weeks of Taylor Swift talk. Can't wait. That's going to be good for our podcast, Taylor Swift Today. We got plenty to talk about in Taylorland. Jay Leno is seeking to become conservator over wife Mavis Leno because she has dementia. Jay filed court documents on Friday to ask a family court judge to grant the conservatorship so he can structure a living trust and other estate plans to make sure that 77-year-old Mavis has managed assets sufficient to provide for her care should he die before her. The petition reads, unfortunately, Mavis has been progressively losing capacity and orientation to space and time for several years. Jay is fully capable of continuing support for Mavis's physical and financial needs, as he has throughout their marriage. The court document said she was being treated for dementia and mood disorder. They've been married for 43 years. Just 3 shows at Sketchfest today, 7:30. Exploration Live with Charlie Bordy and Natalie Rotter-Lateman. Not sure what this is. It says the show's moved to Cobb's Comedy Club. I'm not sure if that's a step up or a step down. Not sure where it had been. The website tells us the world is a confusing place full of mysteries to be probed and questions to be answered. Still not sure what that show is. All right, also at 7:30, Battle of the Wizards, Magicians versus Mentalists. And the 8 o'clock show, the Red Room Orchestra play the Harold and Maude soundtrack. You know what we would do if we were at Sketchfest tonight? I'd take you out to dinner in Little Italy. That's your comedy news for today. Johnny Mack's not impressed by those shows. If you enjoy the show, tell a friend about it. The numbers have been up, and I love you all, except Mike in Cleveland. I just like you as a friend. See you tomorrow.